Hi guys, hope you're good. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Katie and welcome to another bookish adventure. So today I want to do a duology review, and that duology review is for Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. So I kind of decided to do a duology review because after reading both it just makes more sense. Kind of like, not disclaimer, but I enjoyed these books. I love these books. I thought they were brilliant, but there is like a really big but that encompasses that. This is the thing I have. I did listen to them on audiobook, and I do really want to actually read these books just to see if I kind of gain a different way of thinking, I guess. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, the guy who narrated them, my gosh, he sounded like Richard Armitage, so I was living my best life, if I'm going to be honest. Every morning it was a damn treat. But especially in the second book, when things were a bit more fraught, a bit more emotional, he stayed very the same. It didn't really feel like there was any sense of anger or emotion or anything. I think maybe that's where I'm finding it a little bit Also notice that this bit here on my face is still really red. I don't know why, but this bit on my face went like really funny last night, and like I try not to touch it too much, a little highlighter there, but it went like really weird and textured, and like in the morning this bit here anyway is quite red on me, but it like goes down, and also my makeup does disguise it. But great, you can still really see it. To be fair, I have got quite harsh lighting so you can see my face, so that might be why, because I'm having to film this at like 6 in the morning. Anywho, let's talk Strange the Dreamer first. So this book follows Laszlo, who is an orphan, doesn't know where he came from, and then orphans end up in not a nunnery but the equivalent for men, a priestery? I don't know. He ends up with a bunch of men, and then he works in a library, and growing up all his life he's always known about this magical place. He's always known about this place where gods existed and all this stuff, and then one day the name just disappears. He can't remember the name. No one remembers this place that he speaks of. Everyone is like, you're talking about somewhere from a book? Like nowhere can, like just no one knows what he's talking about. But the name that it was has been replaced by wheat, and he's like, you know, it tastes really bitter in his mouth. It's really awful. I will say this about both of these books. Good God, they are two of the most beautifully written books that I've ever come across. They are so lyrical, amazing. Nothing like her Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy at all. It is insane how beautiful and how lyrical these books are just. Laszlo then grows up in a library, and he decides to find any book he can and kind of compile his own kind of index and write his own books on this like place that he remembers that no one else seems to, including like studying languages, where they came from, just all of this stuff, because he's only kind of like mildly obsessed with it. And then one day these people arrive, these soldiers on horseback from this place of Weep, who are looking for the brightest and best minds to help them with a solution, and then whoever can help them with said solution wins notoriety and money and junk like that. But they won't tell them what it is. They basically want people from different fields, and then in the end Laszlo manages to go with them because he converses with their leader in their language, and they're like, oh hey boy. And throughout this journey, you know, Laszlo really does change, and you know, he becomes more rugged and adept at life, and just he really fits in with them, but also he makes the effort with them, whereas the rest of them are like eh. And so then when he's there, this is the thing with this book, like this isn't a first book to me. I mean I gave this 4 stars, like I'm not gonna lie, but I was expecting something completely different. This is the thing. I liked the idea that the premise was kind of vague. You couldn't quite understand what it was about, and that he dreamed of this blue-skinned woman that he'd never met about. And then yeah, that was fine, but I just think I wasn't expecting this to be so character driven and not plot. This basically felt like the setup to the next book, really. This kind of didn't really feel like a first book, if that makes sense. So from Laszlo's point of view, you gain a lot of insight into Weep's traumatized history, and then at night you have his dreams involving said blue-skinned woman. So said blue-skinned woman is Sarai, and she is one of the last gods from Weep. And from Sarai's point of view, you learn the history of Weep and what kind of really went down. I can't remember if one of the characters, Minya, knows the real horrible truth. So Minya was like a not toddler, like 6 or 9 years old or something, and she saved 3 of the children when said gods were slain by the people, because just horrific history for them. And Minya has this raging anger and bitterness that she can't let go of. This is what makes me think that Minya doesn't know the truth of what Sarai kind of discovers, because Sarai has the ability to puke out moths, and they can go down to the people, sit on their foreheads at night and like be in their dreams. She can influence their dreams, give them nightmares, and that's what Minya wants. She wants to make the people suffer, and Sarai learns from their nightmares and from what really happened to these people, and becomes very reluctant into doing this. So the four of them are very isolated. They just have themselves up there. Sarai is the only one who has the ability to actually be around other people, even if it's just in dream form. So Sparrow is able to cultivate plants and things to do with life. Ruby, who can do things with heat and fire. You've got the brother, whose name has completely escaped me. He is water based, and then Minya can catch the souls of anyone who dies. So they have lots of ghost servants and like ghost soldiers. This story is basically about Sarai and Laszlo, and they come together in his dreams, and they form this wonderful just beautiful relationship in which, you know, he sees her for who she is, not like the monsters that like the people below believe. And it's just really interesting learning Weep's history from both point of views. So you have Sarai, who truly does kind of understand what did happen. It's only told from the two of them, so it's really interesting with Laszlo being with the people and learning their fears and how they feel about, you know, obviously what happened to them. And then you have Sarai, who now knows what happens to people because of the dreams, but being in the environment of Minya, being very, you know, they slaughtered us and blah 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 blah. Like, it's very interesting, but this is what makes me think that Minya doesn't know. That kind of does annoy me. So the second book to me is what a first book should be, if I'm going to be honest, because the plot was really happening. I don't obviously want to say what happens at the end of this one. Laszlo does eventually make his way up to be with the gods. I forgot to say they're like floating around in this little citadel above like the town, and that's what the solution is to try and get this thing away, because it's like a horrible reminder, and they're all plunged pretty much in darkness. It blots out the sun. There you go. Again, that's not really a spoiler thing. So yeah, Laszlo does make his way up there, which again just didn't surprise me. It just seemed inevitable that eventually they would meet. It's just the other stuff I'm not going to spoil for you. And yeah, so much is happening. There's also like another second plot line, which is clearly from the past being slowly fed into this, and I wish that plot line had started in the other book, because when they finally came together, I was like, holy shit, this is insane and so cool. Just so much of that book was really brilliant, but I just feel like the emotional side of things, like they just never seemed like, when it really came to the fraught, tense, like death could happen stuff, it just didn't grip me. And this is why this book remains unrated, because I can't figure it out. I love this book. I thought it was brilliant. This book, basically, after reading the first one, I was like, well, all my hopes are on this one, because something good has got to come from it. And this book was amazing. Just so much plot, so much everything. But this is, to me, is what a first book should be. So I kind of feel like this is just like the prequel, like the warm-up, and this is the book. Like, this is the only way I can really describe it. And I was gonna say like what The Hobbit is to the Lord of the Rings, but even then, no. But I guess yeah, The Hobbit does kind of like set up the world and everything for Lord of the Rings, so maybe, and like maybe, I don't know. But yeah, to me, this is just like, this is a taster book, and it's a big taster book. This to me is just, yeah, it's literally just world building and character building. This is the actual book, if you ask me, because that one is way more character driven, way more mythology driven. This one is all plot, and it just encompasses everything. And my god, everything was so good. Like, all of the plot, all of the like the extra world building that went into this because of like previous past timelines, so good. I just don't know whether it is the narrator not bringing enough gravitas and not enough emotion to it, because I definitely want to reread these for sure, because I want to read to see whether that lyricalness does also translate whilst reading it, because this guy's voice was just my lord. So yeah, that I am very interested to see, and I feel like, I guess reading this myself, I would probably give it its own drama and emotion. I may read it more like in my head as it being more frantic and more fraught. I will say a lot of the side characters are extremely redundant, and there's very little development or growth. Characters like Ruby and the brother I can't remember, which is so frustrating because I can remember his power. I mean, Ruby in particular I never liked, to be honest. She just, like, this is the thing, I don't have an issue if you want to shag around and do your thing, like, please babe, like, feel free, just, you know, use protection, I don't care, you live your best like shaggy life, that's great. But like, that's that's all she's interested in, and it's just really bizarre, because like they're not like siblings, they're like they're a family. So her, you know, this poor guy is living with 3 girls. Eventually he's gonna sleep with one of them, and then obviously like the second Laszlo appears, she's like, oh look, a pretty man. I don't know, she just is very redundant. Like she just seems, she's just very hot-headed. She's just, I find her very frustrating and annoying. Honestly, I was like, can she die just to ramp up the emotion or ramp up the like, this is serious, we're not messing about sort of thing. But no. And also with him, whose name I don't remember, oh my god, why can't I remember his name? I thought maybe he might betray Laszlo with that whole, oh look, a new shiny person has finally joined them, and maybe he would be jealous of the fact that Ruby was like, oh look, another penis. I did wonder that. I don't want to give away too much because I'm not giving away the ending of that one, because my god, it was so good. But yeah, everything just comes together, just full force. Like Weep's history with like the gods and like the humans, all of that comes together. There is a whole separate timeline which explains like how the gods came to be, and that, oh my god, it was so good, explaining their powers. Everything was in this book, and it's, oh my god, it's basically 5 stars. It really is. I just have this stupid block when it comes to this one. I held it the wrong way. Yeah, I just yeah, this is the point that I'm at. As a set, these books are amazing and they are 5 stars. They are brilliant. I just wish I had known going into it how different, because like I've seen this book on Instagram, I've seen this book here, and the hype and the love for it is just mad, and I get why. It is beautiful, it is lyrical. I've never read a book like it. It is so good, and like your girl loves mythology and world building. It is one of her favorite things in a book series. Like if you can just give me that, it is like, it is so important to me. But that's what that book was. That's all it really was, and it was their emotional connection and their relationship. There was no real plot, especially when you can compare it to the second book, which was all plot. It took everything from that first book and then jammed some steroids in there, and then yeah, it became to me a first book. So I think the only way I can really get on with this and look at it in the way I have to look at it is by basically looking at Strange the Dreamer as a taster book. It is setting everything up. Don't read that book expecting it to be full plot and action. You really need to look at it like, we are just setting up the world. We are setting up like everyone's backstories, like where Laszlo came from, and then Sarai, because for the majority of this book it is Laszlo until he starts dreaming about Sarai, pretty much from what I remember. I feel like I need to just confirm with Beth whether or not Minion knew about Weep's history and why the people were like, let's uprise. And this is where Sarai's being able to enter into dreams really comes into its own. Her abilities, how they change throughout the second book, it's so cool, and it's brilliant. All of it is really brilliant, and it also gives you an idea of how the world in her trilogy kind of exists. It's great. It's such a good series, but there is just this big but for me. I just think I was kind of let down by the first book in the sense of I didn't know what it was. If I had known it was going to be more character based, it was going to be more relationship driven and world building, I would have read it and enjoyed it with a different appreciation. Because I think once I realized nothing was really happening, I kind of thought, okay, we'll just see what happens and we'll enjoy it for what it is, I guess. And what it was really good, because it was beautiful and it was amazing. But at the same time, I was like, why has this book got so much love and hype when nothing's really happening? So yeah, I've got to look at it as like a taster book. And yeah, I may come back and sort of redo this video, re-update it when I've read them as a duology, and be like, oh, it felt different reading it. I felt more emotion, because a lot of it could just come down to the fact that the narrator just didn't infuse it with what emotion I wanted, and maybe if I read it, that's how I'll read it, as more. So I really highly recommend this, but I just think you need to go into it knowing that the first book is not going to be jam-packed full of stuff happening, and then it really only happens in the second one. But other than that, it's freaking amazing. Yeah, I say go read it. I definitely recommend her trilogy as well. So good. I really need to reread those. And again, very different. Like the writing style is so different, and the fact that she can do that, oh lady, I was really hoping that my cheeks would have calmed down and sort of like stopped flaring, but no, thank god we wear face masks at work and no one will be able to see this. Don't think it's as bad in person. I think it is the lighting just highlighting the fact that something went wrong with my face last night. I'm never not sick. Seriously, I woke up with a bung nose and a sore throat. In fact, I went to bed with that and hoped it would go, but no. If you enjoyed this video and want to hit that like button, do that. And if you want to subscribe, do that too. Please comment below if you've read this duology. How do you feel? Do you feel the same way as me? Especially in regards to the first book and like how the second book is. Just like, it's such a different way of writing. It's just something I've never experienced before, that kind of first book really setting it up and not having the action. So yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on it. You may have noticed that there is a week gap between this and my last video. It's it's because I got a week of holiday, and yeah, I just don't want to sit there and edit. I want to enjoy myself, and actually I can't sit there and edit because technically when this goes up I would have a new tattoo. So yeah, that's why I won't be editing on Tuesday, because I'll be getting drawn on. So yeah, have a great week, and I will see you in the next one.